The lunar nodes have shifted. What are the nodes, you ask? What is the shift, you want to know? In this video, I'm breaking it all down for you. I'm starting a series of videos here on the nodal axis shift. You can learn all about it and how it applies to you. Welcome back to my channel, beloved souls. This is Vivía at Your Soul's Well, and today's talk, I'm talking all about the lunar nodal shift. This first video is an introduction to what the nodes are, what they mean. I put this video together because when I was starting out, I sure would have appreciated a video like this. It gives a visual as to what really is going on when we astrologers say that the nodes of the moon are changing. That is what today's video is about. So I want to remind everybody that if you like my work and you would like to support me in my work, please subscribe to my channel. Please like it and comment below your thoughts. Please share it out to anyone who you think would benefit from watching this video. That would be very helpful too. The lunar nodal shift. It happens once every year and a half-ish, a little bit over a year and a half. And it's significant in astrology because it's indicative of themes that we as individuals and the collective will go through in the time period. In your chart or any chart, the north node of the moon looks like a little horseshoe, the north node, and the south node looks like an inverted horseshoe. I'll put them up on the screen so you can see what they look like, and that's what they look like on every chart. When you see these glyphs or these symbols, that's what they mean. They are representing, like I said, the north node of the moon or the south node. The word node comes from Latin meaning nodum or knot. And it's interesting because if we look at the symbol or the glyph or the nodes, they look like little knots, don't they? That is on purpose. They were done that way on purpose. All the symbols in astrology, all the glyphs for the planets and the signs, they're very representative of the meaning behind it, just as is all symbology. Now, on a chart, the nodes are diametrically opposed points, which are created by the intersection of the moon, paths of the moon, or any planet. But today's video is just about the nodes of the moon. The intersection of the path of the moon crosses the path of the ecliptic. The nodes are linked together with the path of the moon to that of the eclipses, and also eventually the Saros cycle or Saros cycle. I made a little diagram for us. I made us some visual. Really want you to get this. So I made these. It took me a while to do this, so I want to show this to you. So here we are here, and we travel around the sun here. And this, as we travel, that's the ecliptic. It's also called the parent path of the sun because it looks like the sun is traveling around that. So that's the ecliptic. I share this one now. So then we have this one. And when the moon is traveling around us, when it intersects here, see this circle, that's the intersection of the moon's path with the ecliptic. So then when that crossing creates this node, it's called the north lunar node. And see, there's that symbol there. That's the north node there. When the moon crosses here, when it gets to this point and crosses here, this is the other crossing point of the moon. This point, it creates the south node. The south lunar node is at that point. There are both of the nodes. Both of the nodes are together here. See? As we orbit around the sun, that is the ecliptic, or it's otherwise also known as the apparent path of the sun, the ecliptic. The moon is orbiting around us. And then every single time the moon intersects with the ecliptic, it forms what we know as the north node and the south node. So when the moon is crossing from the south of the ecliptic up to the north, it's called the ascending path. And then when it crosses, it's the north node, also called Rahu. When the moon is crossing from the north node to the south, its descending path, it is called the south node or Ketu. The ecliptic is the apparent path of the sun across our permanent cosmic background, that beautiful starry sky that we see. It is the plane of the Earth's actual orbit around the sun that defines the ecliptic. The north node is otherwise known as Rahu in ancient astrology. It represents the future and the direction that we need to move in order to fulfill our soul's growth and purpose. The current placement of the node is reflective of the evolutionary evolutionary journey that we are on, both as individuals and as a collective, in the time-space sequence or the timeline that we are on, and what themes we can see develop or what we will be working on over the next year and a half. The North Node is known to bring newness into our lives, new adventures, opportunities of all sorts, business, creative, relationship, adventures, friendships, romance, children, grandchildren, skills, you name it, it will bring it. Some say that the North Node and Rahu have qualities like Uranus, fast moving, changing, unexpected, unusual. Unlike other planets, the nodes don't actually have physical substance, physical bodies to them. And because astrology is a very vast field with a lot of different traditions and backgrounds and systems, there's not really one cohesive ideology, I'd say, around the rulership or even exaltation of the nodes themselves. So there has been a lot of debate over their rulerships, and there are a number of opinions around this issue in both Western and even Eastern traditions concerning the correct signs of exaltation, meaning when a planet is in its highest position and can achieve positive effects. So it is inconsistent. But if we just take Jupiter and use it to help us describe the North Node or Rahu, Jupiter has an effect of expansion. It brings good tidings, and it brings with it opportunities and expansion and good tidings. So this is what we can see as well from the North Node, that wherever it is in your chart or a chart of a country or of the collective, wherever it is, it brings change, expansion, a surge of energy, and influx of newness into whichever area it is in. The nodes often deal with karma and fate, hence their moniker, the nodes of destiny or the nodes of fate, or even the karmic nodes. But let's not look at karma as a bad thing. Let's look at karma instead as attitudes and habits and patterns that have formed over a lifetime. If you believe in past lives and incarnation, it could be patterns and habits that have formed over lifetimes, over many lifetimes. And all of this energy being focused into a certain part of your chart or a chart, any chart, because remember, everything has a birth time, whether you know it or not, whether we know it or not, it does. And the nodes are there somewhere in it. So all this energy in one focused area of your chart is changing that area, that landscape of your life forever. It's coming in and it's changing it all up. It's coming in and changing that part of you for good. The North Node is solutions orientated, as it is expanding an area and infusing an area with its energy. It's driving us as individuals and us as the collective to seek solutions to problems in whichever area of our chart, of our lives, that translates into our lives it is in, and what that relates to, the areas that it reflects and relates to, the themes that it brings up, which is all around the sign that it is in. So there's going to be an area in the chart that it's in, and there's going to be a sign associated with it, and that sign will have themes and topics that come up for it that we get to explore. The North Node is considered our path of evolutionary growth, the point and path that we must follow in order to bring about our soul's deepest longings and desires and growth. It is the path of evolution that we must follow in order to grow our soul. What? You thought you were just an ordinary human? Oh, you are so much more, beloved. Before you were flesh, you were soul. Before you come in as a human incarnate, you are and were always soul, part of the divine collective essence of great spirit. Yes, you are a soul first and foremost, and the North Node in your chart chart shows the path of your evolutionary growth in this incarnation. Now, there are people who don't believe in incarnations and reincarnation and different lifetimes, and that's fine. You do not have to believe. You don't have to believe in reincarnation to believe in the North or South Node or your soul. And I'll get to that when I get to the South Node, okay? So the North Node, or Rahu, is the ascending North Node. In mythology, it is said to be the head of a dragon born of a lioness. It's about attachment, excess, and power. It deals with the materialistic side of life and the outer world. Some say that it is masculine in nature and rules over wealth. Now, the South Node with the little headphones turned the other way around. The South Node, or Ketu, as it's called in Indian astrology, is our comfort zone. The things that we know, the patterns that we know, the things that we like, the things that are familiar. It shows us our past lessons, past karma, and this is where I need to tell you this. The South Node represents the past, and there's a lot of different ways that you can look at this, okay? There are several ways that you can look at the South Node as it regards the past, and I tell my clients this all of the time. It can be your ancestry through your inheritance, your lineage, what comes through in your DNA, your memories from your ancestors, the learned behavior, everything that you have inherited. It could be that. It could be the familiar patterns, or what I like to call the default settings that go back and it can go as far back as your own childhood, and the things that you have learned from your environment, the things that you were conditioned to believe, whether they're good or bad. It could be that. And those two first ones that I've given you, they're similar, but not exactly the same. So the childhood one comes in place in like the learnings and your environment, and how you like the nurturing or lack of nurturing that you received as a child, and the things that you've learned as a child, and the habits that you've built up all of your life. That's what the South Node could show you. And then the prior one was about the actual things that you've inherited. And the third way you can look at this, another way that you can look at this, is if you do believe in past lives, even if it's just an inkling starting to grow in your mind. If you do believe in past lives, the South Node shows your past life, your tendencies there, and the things that you have learned from that past life and brought to this life. It's the information that you've gathered and accumulated across multiple lifetimes and interdimensionally and from different places in your soul's existence, and brought with you to the earth in this incarnation to live it out as you need to live it out. And all of that accrued and it built up as you now and as your South Node. So that is another way to look at it. But certainly if you don't believe in past lives, you don't need to believe in past lives in order for this to work for you, in order for you to see this. You can see it through the lens of your past in any way that you see fit. So just do whatever feels right for you. So as I just said, it shows our past lessons, our past karma. It shows our patterns, our programming, our habits, and everything that is familiar to us. It can show us things that we have already accomplished and have already achieved, and our comfort level in that area of life. Since the South Node is the point of letting go and surrender and release, it is the point that we look to see what it is in our lives that we need just to let go of and to surrender to, what we need to release, what we need to cleanse from ourselves. It shows us things that we have outgrown and patterns that have perhaps become ingrained, but that no longer serve us and that we need to start to change. In astrology, you might have heard this saying about we need to move away from our South Node, but it's really important not to disown and discard the South Node. The South Node and the North Node are points that are connected together, and that where one goes, so does the other. And if we are disowning this part of ourselves, this South Node, this ingrained behavior, if we're trying to ignore it, that's just disowning a part of ourselves, I believe. And that's sometimes it can develop further into a shadow side of ourselves that's not expressed. And that's not healthy either. Because the fact remains that the South Node and everything it represents is there in our chart. And it is better to own it and be accountable for it, to work on the lessons of integration that it brings to us. Also, if the South Node is about the past, and it is, many of its workings could be like unconscious unconscious to us, or underneath the level of our conscious awareness, flies under the radar of our conscious awareness. Subtly there though. So we have to pay attention. So it's important for you to be aware of what is coming up in the area of the South Node by natal chart or by transit. And that means the natal means what you were born with, and the transit means the movement of the node since your birth. And I can explain that more later as we go into this series, because this is my series on the nodes. The South Node holds the energy of resistance to change. Do you know that I have learned about resistance to change in almost every single modality and discipline I have ever studied? We humans like to hold on to change more, some more than others. It is a survival and a coping mechanism for all of us. Certainly many things that we've learned to do help us survive and stay alive, but a lot of the things we've learned aren't necessarily like that. We can outgrow things and we can get stuck into patterns. We want to do more than just survive. We want to thrive, and we want to prosper, and we want to evolve, and we want to grow, and we want to grow our souls. That, I believe, is what we came here for to do. We came here to Earth, to what can be a very hard place at times, to grow the soul. So in order to do that, we must discard the old and make way for the new. And although the South Node feels comfortable and we might be confident there, and we are familiar with this territory, if we stay there too long, we will not grow and we will stagnate. And when we stagnate, we actually start to atrophy, right? We're not using other parts of ourselves that needs the newness and needs the growth and needs the expansion. And ultimately, that just leads to our death, even if it's just a metaphysical or a spiritual one. But still, we don't want to stagnate. We want to keep growing, because if we're not growing, we're dying. So the South Node is our place of surrender, of letting go, of releasing. The South Node has qualities similar to the planet Neptune, where it dissolves and makes things less accessible and less material to us. It also has qualities like Saturn in terms of it restricting it and constricting it. It's a point of loss on the chart where the North Node gets energy, the South Node loses energy. So there's a loss of energy there. So the South Node, or Ketu, is known as the descending South Node. It is the head of the dragon, where the North Node is about attachment, the South Node is about liberation and freedom. If the North Node is born of a lioness, the South Node is born of philosophy. It can have the limitation of Saturn, and it can cut like Mars. So cutting things off, dissipating like Neptune. The South Node is about enlightenment and spirituality, and it's all about the inner workings, the inside, us, the spirit side, the soul side. Some say that it is feminine in nature and rules over poverty or lack. The nodes move backwards through the chart in a clockwise motion and travel through the signs of the zodiac in the same backwards motion. They change their node of axis every year and a half or so just a little wee bit over. That means they change the sign that they are in, and that is what is called a nodal shift. So when you hear astrologers say the nodes are shifting, that is what they mean. They're moving from one sign to another sign. When they do so, they also change their modality with every change of axis. So they move from cardinal to mutable to fixed and then back to cardinal. This, in addition to the zodiac sign change, is what also makes the change in energy and focus so noticeable, because the modalities all bring us different energies to work and contend with. Every 18 and a half years, roughly, the nodes make a complete return to where they had been previously 18 and a half years before. This is called a nodal return. That means in your lifetime, you will have nodal returns every 18 and a half years until your passing. So 18 and a half, and then about 36, 37 years, and so on and so forth. This nodal return, where the nodes return to the same place in the chart that they started, marks significant change in the life of the native, so yourself. And astrologers look to these points to see changes and can predict changes according to nodal shifts. One of the things that we look to. And in half that time, 9.3 years or so, they make their half return or their inverse return. And we can also use these to look back on our lives, engage trends, and see trends that we're developing and forming. Oftentimes, we can expect similar themes or events to pop up or occur that were occurring at previous nodal periods. The North Node is also the point of the new moon solar eclipse and the new beginnings that come with that. Because it is the head or the mouth of the dragon, it's what we have to take in and digest, the new experiences, the new information, all of the new energy. The South Node is the point of the lunar eclipse. Endings, things we have to let go of, endings of cycles. And because it is the tail of the dragon, it's considered the point where we have to excrete or let go of. But remember that they work in tandem, and we can't have one without the other. And the best solution, I think, is to use both of them, incorporate the lessons of the South Node to be able to fully actualize the path of the North Node. So wherever the nodes change to, we can expect changes in our lives and in the society around us, in the world around us. These overarching changes observed in society are influenced by the theme that the signs of the nodes are moving into. They will affect the trends that we see, topics coming up, themes played out, and it's considered important in astrology to watch the nodes and where they move, to be able to predict or look forward to what we will see arise, both on the world stage as well as individually in our lives. Another thing I want to mention about the eclipses that happen because of the nodes of the moon is that all of the eclipses belong to their own Saros cycle. I'm not going to get too much into that today, but it's just good to know that any eclipse doesn't really happen by itself, just as some random chance. It actually belongs to a larger cycle that is playing out. So that's just important just to take note of. And it's also important, I think, that to have an understanding that although these are just temporal markers, there may not be physical bodies or physical substance to them. I believe they're greatly important to astrology, and I do consider myself a modern and evolutionary astrologer. So for me, the nodes of the moon are fundamental to my practice and to looking at charts and seeing what's going on in a person's life or why they're here, and just seeing what's going on in the greater collective. So that's my stance on it, if you want to know. And I do think that helping us understand ourselves, that's why I use astrology. It's such a beneficial tool to help you understand your own psychology. And the nodes are so helpful to understanding our psychology. Remember that the word soul, the word psyche means soul. That's where that word comes from, right? That's what our psyche means. And to have a deeper understanding of that, of our own inner self, we look to the nodes of the moon in the chart. It helps us understand it helps us become more aware of our own inner self. And I believe just live our better lives. That's pretty much everything I have on the nodes right now for you. I just wanted to give you this brief introduction to what the nodes are. It certainly would have helped me to have had some type of visual to see what I was being taught, and I want to give that to you. Now, what I want to say too is I'm doing a whole series. You're going to want to watch the next video that I'm going to put up tomorrow, because that one is going to break down the transit that we're having right now. So transit is movement, and so it's the movement of the nodes. It's going to break down what actually is happening. But this particular video here, it's the reason why I made it separately, because I want you to be able to come back to just this video here and watch it again and again to understand, watch the video replay, watch that little video I made about the actual moon and everything moving around, how it's formed. Watch it as often as you like. I would just like to also remind you to please subscribe and like my channel and share this information out. It really helps me a great deal. And comment below if you have any questions about this video. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that you have all listened to this video. I hope that you learned something, and I can't wait to see you on the next video coming up very soon. Stay blessed, all you beloved souls.